Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And even though I imagined watching these movies kind of like, well, if not back to back, at least over a period of a couple of weeks, it's actually taken much longer for me. Superhero movies, I really want to watch as many of them as possible and do reviews for them because a lot of them I haven't actually done for the channel. We're talking about Superman 3 right now. Let me take a sip of water. The first two movies are really good. Things start going downhill over here. Superman 3 came out in 1983 and it stars, that's the worst part. And I know he's a funny man, but I don't think it worked for this film. So Christopher Reeve returns as Superman of Clark Kent. Superman, of course, Richard Pryor is acting in this movie. Jackie Cooper, Mark McClure, Annette O'Toole plays Lana Lang, beautiful actress, especially when she was younger. Annie Ross, Pamela Stevenson, Robert Vaughn, and Margot Kidder has a small, basically an almost insignificant role because of some issues that they actually had. She and Gene Hackman didn't like the fact that the way that the previous director Richard Donner was treated by the Salkinds, who are producers of the film, and kind of like the rumor is that Gene Hackman refused to do the movie, and they decided to punish Margot Kidder by giving her a very small role. But I don't know if that's true, but that's the rumor. Anywho, yeah. So basically, there's this. I mean, the sequence. It's a lot more comedy. You kind of expect it from having Richard Pryor coming in the movie, and he's given a lot of coverage in this film. So I could say he's basically the second lead in this movie almost. So they see this company called Websco, which is a huge conglomerate, and an out-of-work man named Gus Gorman, decides to take up some computer programming classes because he's desperate for a job, and he thinks he can try it out. He actually has a very good knack for computers, and he ends up doing things that most people will take much longer to do, and he's brilliant at it. So he decides to do, they call it salami slicing over here, but basically he increases the money that's going into his account by taking money from here and there in the company, and soon, because he ends up buying a flashy car, his boss gets to know about it. So Webster, Ross Webster, who's the CEO, played by this actor who I've seen in a few things. Robert Vaughn plays a good, like, slimy politician, rich man kind of role. I think he always seems to do that pretty much. Anyway, so he hires him, and what they try to affect using a very advanced satellite which controls the weather, affect Colombia so that Webster can actually eat into their share of coffee producing, and then make a lot more money. However, Clark Kent, who is Superman basically, who's writing a report on going back to his hometown, which is Smallville, going for his I think 10-year high school reunion, something like that. And he goes there, he meets Lana Lang, who is a divorcee, and she's got a young kid, and he bonds with her as well as the kid. So he rescues a lot of them, and now they basically, Webster tells him, like, you need to really affect Superman. Superman's out of the picture. He tends to gain a lot more power and money. So in Smallville, for a ceremony thanking Superman for rescuing the kid, as well as a couple of other things that he did, while he's there at the ceremony, they gave him the key to the small city of Smallville. Pryor and Webster's sister, dressed as army sergeants, they come over there and give him a token of their appreciation, and it's actually kryptonite, which he has actually fabricated, right, using ingredients that they think. But he there's one key ingredient missing, so he uses tar, and just to, because it's an unknown element, and it ends up not affecting Superman the way they thought. They thought that he'll become weak and all that. No, he just accepts the gift. Unfortunately, it makes Superman evil. He becomes mean. He becomes boorish. So he does things like, what was it? Basically, he goes, straightens the Leaning Tower of Pisa and blowing out the Olympic flame just before it can be lit. And then he starts getting drunk. He starts breaking a lot of bottles and stuff using peanuts. That's one of the scenes I remember watching for the very first time, which was as a child back in Kuwait. And then people start avoiding him, but after a while, he goes to, there's something really bad with him, so he goes to this dump, basically, and then he starts having a nervous breakdown. He splits into two: the immoral, corrupted Dark Superman and the moral, mind-mannered Clark Kent, and the two have a fight. Clark Kent ends up victorious at the end, and then he goes and confronts Webster, his sister Vera, the beautiful Lorelei, who is Webster's kind of secretary, and with a little later, because Gus becomes a little bit guilty, feels a little bit guilty, he helps Superman as well, and they destroy the Ray, the supercomputer which they try to which they're building, and Vera turns into this android kind of thing that was ridiculous, to be honest, but they all get knocked off and killed. I think even Lorelei gets killed as well, and Richard Pryor, Gus and Clark is safe, so he flies Gus back to civilization, where he decides to, he says, I don't want to return to Metropolis, so he says, I'll try to make a new life for myself in West Virginia. Superman visits Lana once again, and then helps her move to Metropolis, where he gets her a job as secretary to Perry White, and that's when Lois returns as well. She sees the kind of affection between the both of them, and although she was on vacation, she actually came back writing about an article about corruption in Bermuda, and she has more respect for Clark after reading his story about going back to the town, and that's basically the end of the film. So, yeah, let's look at the. Just want to go down with the actors. Other than Clark Kent, of course, who's played by Clark Kent, Superman played by Christopher Reeve. We have Richard Pryor playing Gus Gorman. Jackie Cooper plays Perry White once again. Mark McClure plays Jimmy Olsen, returning. Annette O'Toole plays Lana Lang. Robert Vaughn plays Ross Bubba Webster. Annie Ross, which is really odd, plays Vera Webster, who is the sister. Pamela Stevenson plays the voluptuous blonde named Lorelei Ambrosia. Margot Kidder has a small role as Lois Lane. And Gavin O'Hurley, I don't know how you pronounce that name, plays Brad Wilson, who is Lana Lang's ex-boyfriend and a bully. And that's about it. I guess it's an okay film. I might only give it a 7 out of 10, grudgingly, to be honest. It's a big drop down from the first two films, to be honest. And they try to focus a lot more on the comedy, especially because Richard Pryor is there. That's not the way we should have gone. And the fact remains that except for Lex Luthor, you don't really have memorable villains in this first four films, and I think they should have actually gone for some superpowered villains rather than you do get in the next movie, but that's another story altogether. But yeah, I will give this a grudging 7 out of 10. It's still nice to watch Superman with Christopher Reeve, R.I.P. And Margot Kidder as well, R.I.P. So yeah, that's basically it for Superman 3, 7 out of 10.